So, hi everybody. For those of you who are new, welcome to Culinary Institute of Piccadilly. Oh, we got one more. So, welcome to everybody. My name's Miss Allison. I do the class every week. Hi. So, I want to make sure we have everything we need. So, obviously, you guys have the kits that I dropped off for you, except we have one group doing their own ingredients. So, but if you got the kits, then you have the berries that I sent, you've got some brown sugar, you've got oats, you've got flour, you've got sugar and cinnamon mixed together. That's going to be a fun one for us to taste. And yeah, so we've got butter, lots of stuff. Now the other optional things that you could use from home, if you have vanilla, got vanilla, you can get that out. We can use it. If you don't have it, that's okay. Not necessary. And we also will be using some salt. So if you have salt, hello. If you have salt, then we'll use that also.
We have both.
Oh, super. That's a relief. Good. So we're going to start by putting your berries into a bowl. We're going to add a couple things to this, not a lot, so it doesn't have to be a really big bowl. It could be a small mixing bowl. I've got kind of a big size cereal bowl here. And we're going to put our berries in there. And I put different berries in because they taste so good. And a lot of these are really good for us, like these blackberries, these big ones right here. Feel free to taste one or two of these things so you can see what they taste like. But the blackberries are nice. There's lots of seeds in them, but they have antioxidants. All of these have good antioxidants in them. Antioxidants help us stay healthy. They protect us. And we're going to add just a couple things to this, then we're going to set these aside. But like I said, you can try these different ones. Try a raspberry, try a blackberry, try a blueberry, and your bodies are going to thank you because they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I feel really extra healthy right now. All these antioxidants, so good for me. So we're going to add a couple things. Now you got a little container. No, it was a baggie I gave you of cinnamon and sugar. Jackie, for you, I know you were doing your own ingredients. I'm doing this slimmed down version of the recipe that I sent you. So I used about a cup of berries, and we're gonna use about a tablespoon and a half. So it's time to get our measuring spoons out of a sugar and cinnamon mixture. I put about almost a third of a cup of sugar into a baggie for everybody because we're gonna use it for both the topping and the base. And just to make it easier, and plus I always hate giving you guys a million different plastic things, I mix the cinnamon and the sugar. And cinnamon and sugar are really good friends. They like each other a lot. If you have cinnamon by itself, it's very bitter. But when you mix it with sugar, it makes the cinnamon taste amazing. So you guys take a pinch of that cinnamon sugar mix. You'll see it's kind of like a brown white mix. Take a pinch of that and taste it. Pretty amazing, huh? Yeah, this is some good stuff. So when cinnamon and sugar get together, they're like best friends. So we're going to take about a tablespoon. If you have a measuring spoon, this is a great time to try using it. A tablespoon, we're going to just sprinkle that in with our fruit, maybe a half or more. We don't have to be exact.
I'm gonna try it now. Okay, go ahead, try it with one.
Here.
Try a blackberry.
And now pour this in my food.
We're gonna put about a teaspoon, if you have it, of vanilla in. It's not necessary. It just adds a nice little flavor. And if you're gonna do the vanilla, I want you to smell it first.
Can you smell it?
It might smell really good. You might think, oh, I could taste this and it would be amazing. I wouldn't recommend it. It's only good in very little bits, and it's great when you used it in baked items. It gives a little added flavor. But vanilla by itself, it's like the cinnamon. Cinnamon smells great until you mix it with sugar. Vanilla smells great, but you need to mix it with other things. So you're just gonna put about maybe a half a teaspoon in with your little berries, and you can stir those up.
What?
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Good. You're going to be amazed what happens to these berries because we're going to bake them and they're going to turn into this yummy, gooey, warm mixture. They're not even going to look like berries anymore. It's going to be interesting. So I also gave you a little container of white powder. There's a little container and it is of white powder, and that's cornstarch. So we're going to use it. It's about, I'm using about a tablespoon, or a half a tablespoon, I should say, about a half a tablespoon of cornstarch. And that's pretty much what you have in your pre-measured containers. This is for Jackie, who's doing hers at home. This is what I use. It obviously doesn't have to be exact. Sometimes if you have flour, you could use that too. I like to use cornstarch. And what the cornstarch is going to do is going to coat over this fruit. And you can
That's the cinnamon and the sugar.
lightly mix it around.
Yeah, that is. It's not going to taste that good anymore because we just put some. Put it all in.
It's not gonna look like big.
It doesn't look like
So
berries.
we added the cornstarch because what happens when it bakes, it's going to make the juices nice and thick.
Stir it again.
And
Maybe
it's
stir
going
it
to make it more like a syrupy dessert. So it won't be so runny. The cornstarch will help make it a little bit thicker. Cornstarch is used in things like if you want to make gravy, you make something a little bit thick, you add cornstarch to it. So
Switch it.
that's what's going to help us later. It's not going to do anything for the taste. You won't be able to taste the cornstarch. It's going to help the texture be a little thicker. It's also something you wouldn't need to use if you don't want to. After you bake it and you decide, I don't like it this thick, you can actually adjust it later. That's part of being a chef, is you decide what you like. So our berries are good to go. We're going to set those aside.
Go in there. You just
How are we doing?
Those sound good. Look, Nico. Delicious.
This is where.
Oh, I like it. It looks good. Yes, perfect. Perfect work. Okay. So we'll set those aside. And we're going to start on the really, really tasty bit. So what we're making today is called berry crisp, or you could also call it berry crumble. And it's those berries that we did, and on top of it is going to be this yummy mixture of oats and sugar and butter. So on top of that, once it bakes, it's going to be a little bit crispy and sweet. And that's going to go, and then underneath will be our berries. So you can call it berry crisp or berry crumble, either way. And we're going to start at the top here. So you're going to get another bowl, another little mixing bowl.
Okay, let's put this bowl aside. Grab your other one.
We gotta wait.
And we're going to start mixing all those dry ingredients that I sent you. So we've got, you've got some old-fashioned oats. You have oats in a bag. We're going to start with those. Let's put our oats.
Dump it all in.
Now, if you guys have granola, or maybe sometimes you have oatmeal in the morning, it might be soft,
So good, but you can try it.
but these are just the raw oats, but you can taste them and know that they'll be cooked later. So they might not taste that good. Then you might just think, what is this? How is this going to taste good later? Oh, I don't know what's going on here. Well, trust me, it'll be good later. But these are the raw oats, and oats are good for us, actually. They give us fiber, they fill up our tummies and help us stay fuller longer. Also good for our hearts.
Did you like
After we put our oats in, we can add our sugars, and you have about a quarter cup, and it was about a half a cup of oats.
what is
We
this?
have about a quarter cup of brown sugar.
Okay.
And you'll know that because it'll look like brown and it'll look like sugar. It's in one of your baggies. We're gonna dip that in. Take a taste of that also.
Go ahead, you can take that.
Pinch of it.
Little pinch, not a big pinch, little.
Sugar has some molasses in it. So it might taste like a different kind of sweet. Pretty good though. I mean, any sweet's good, right? And we're gonna add our cinnamon sugar to it, about 2 tablespoons of that cinnamon sugar that we tried earlier. If you need to taste it again, you might have to, just to make sure you like it.
We gotta measure that too.
You don't-
The 2 tablespoons.
It is good.
It is good. We've got confirmation. Fabulous.
This is good. I think sugar.
It's all of it.
Right here, black tablespoon.
Yeah.
No, sir.
The last dry, well, we have 2 more dry ingredients. The last one that I sent you is your flour. And that's gonna be that white, light stuff in a baggie. That's about a quarter cup of this.
Quarter cup.
Yeah, so we it out for you. Pour it in.
It's all been pretty much measured for anyone who got the ingredients. Now we have all these dry ingredients together. And you can actually use your fingers to mix it, or you can use a spoon.
Don't taste the flour. Flour's not gonna taste that good.
The flour is just gonna help give it a little bit of structure, bring it all together.
Mix it all together.
So we're mixing our mixture now. We're not quite ready to put it all together. We have a couple more things to add. The one thing that really makes this good is adding a little bit of salt.
I'm gonna pinch some salt.
And when you add salt, so I did like maybe 3, maybe, I don't know, half a teaspoon, 3/4 of a teaspoon.
I'll
We're
mix
gonna end up using unsalted butter. Jackie, if you have salted butter, you probably don't need to add much salt. But if you got the kits, for me, that is unsalted butter. So I add a little bit of salt to it, and I like mine a little bit salty. Salt actually helps bring out the flavor of things. When salt by itself, now take some of that salt and put it on your table right next to where your bowl is.
Oh, there's
Take
some.
a little bit and put your finger in and taste that salt. Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
So by itself, it might not taste that good. Maybe it tastes a little salty. Well, when we add it to things, it's going to help bring the flavor out. It's going to help the cinnamon and the berries and everything taste even better. And you'll be surprised that salt actually did that work for you. So we added our salt. And the last thing we're going to add is that butter. Now this is where some of the cutting, and parents, you might need to help cut the butter. Or if the kids are bigger, they can cut it themselves.
Okay, wait. Cut our
Really small pieces.
Yeah.
So I cut mine into like rows, and then I'll cut across, and then I'll cut across. So they're like little squares.
Heidi, do you need any help, honey?
They're pretty easy to cut. So if you even have like a butter knife or just a serrated
Oh boy.
that. If the kids are little, make sure you're helping them. But let them try it. Don't just do it for them so that they can get an understanding of knives. And the important thing about knives is that even if there's something yummy like butter on it, we don't want to put it in our mouths because we don't want to cut our tongues. We like our tongues. We want to keep them around. So we don't lick knives or anything. We want to just cut, and we'll cut onto a cutting board or a plate, whatever you've got there. And you want them in little small pieces. And we're going to add those small pieces to our oats.
Yeah.
Oh, we put all our pieces in.
You put them in here.
Jackie, I used about 3 ounces of butter. So we've got our butter added, but this is where we get to get our hands messy. And if you have rings on, you might want to take those off. Get caught up, we're good on time, so I'll give you a minute. See how everybody's doing here. One of the things is I usually use, you want to make sure your butter is really cold too. It kind of helps everything turn out. If it's soft and the butter gets mixed in with everything and it's kind of like this gooey mess. So we're adding our butter to our mixture.
There you go.
Still got it with our hands.
With your hand.
Ooh, this is quite
And we are going to get our hands messy because we want to mix the butter into the mixture with our hands, because when we find those little bits of butter, we're going to squeeze them and we're going to smash them a little bit. So we want to get everything, and your hands are going to get a little bit messy, but that's okay. You can clean this off later. So we're going to put your hands into the mixture and squeeze the butter.
On there.
I kind of smash it in with the oats, smash it all together. It's not going to all end up being blended. It's still going to look dry, but we're just using our fingers to help spread the butter around a little bit more. This butter is going to disappear in the oven because it's going to melt and it's going to bring everything together in this yummy, tasty.
Yeah, smash it in that way.
Smash it together.
It's okay.
A little bit of a mess, but I'm sure that's good. Feels good. Does it smell good?
Smell good?
Amazing.
My mixture is gooder than I got it.
Mixture is what?
And with the what? With the flour and the
All right. So you might have really messy hands. That's okay. You might have to lick your fingers a little bit. See what that tastes like. What do we think? Tasting pretty good, huh? Yeah. So now it's all pretty mixed together. You'll still see the clumps of butter. That's all right. But we've got sort of a mixture that's it's really incorporated in there. We can set that aside. You can wipe your hands a little bit if you need to.
You want to lick your fingers? Yeah, you can lick your fingers. Taste it. Tell me how it tastes. Good.
We need to clean off our hands a little bit. That's fine.
We'll grab a napkin for you.
Now we've got a couple different options for when we bake. And I should have mentioned, if you haven't preheated your ovens to 350, you can do that. So there's a couple different ways. There's a thing like this. This is called a ramekin. And I don't know if you guys have ramekins at home. This is, I think, a 6-ounce ramekin. It's a nice size, not too big. You could probably, we're going to probably make maybe 3 of these. Or if you have muffin tins, we can use muffin tins. So either way. The other thing is if you don't have either one of these and you have kind of like a baking dish, pretty much like this little one that I've mixed together, you could actually make a big crumble and put it all together in one. So you have lots of options when you're baking today. Now, those of you who are eating all of that topping, you may want to save some for later. It's gonna be pretty good though. So you want to make sure that you have your pan greased, whatever you're going to use, ramekins or the cupcake holders. I'm going to do the cupcake tin.
Well done.
I'm going to spray that. It'll probably make about 4, depending on how much fruit and topping you've eaten, but you'll probably make about 4. And actually, we're gonna have extra topping.
Still has cooking fast.
If you guys want to use that topping later, you could maybe find different fruits to experiment with. You could maybe, if you have apples, that might be really good to use. Or even if you have some frozen fruit, like frozen peaches or something. If you have frozen fruit, you'll want to defrost it and like get some of the excess juice out before you use it. But you'll have extra topping after this. Well, you should, if the kids haven't eaten it all. But I'm gonna spray my muffin tin. You could use butter with a little bit of flour to grease your tin. You could use just like a spray cooking oil, something so the topping might stick around the edges. So something just to help that. Now we're gonna start by putting our berries into the container that we're baking in. So you're gonna use a spoon. Remember those berries that we've set aside? We're gonna go back to those berries.
You want to scoop?
When you put it into your cupcake tin, you don't want to fill it up all the way because we need to save some room for the topping.
Here you go. Here's a scoop.
So I'm putting mine in and I'm gonna change my view here. So
There you go.
recording.
I know. Yeah, it's not so far.
And depending on how much you want in there, you may be able to stretch this out to 5. But I'm gonna stick with about 4 little muffin tins here.
Okay, put some in there.
1 second.
3/4 of the way full.
Twist that.
In there.
If you have a ramekin, it might be halfway full.
Blueberries. Here, scoop, scoop, scoop. You can do it. Here, let's try again. There we go.
I don't know.
And if it's easier and you want to use your hands, use your hands.
Oh, do you want to use your hands? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Just pick them up there. There you go.
We do that.
Also then, going to use our topping. Remember I said we're going to have extra topping. So the amount of topping that I use, and you can use a spoon for this, you can use your hands, either way, is I usually put enough in to hide my fruit. It's almost like a secret that we have our fruit in there. We don't need it overflowing, but just a layer to cover up the fruit.
Use your hands, or do you want to use a spoon?
So there might be some sneaking out, and when they bake, those
Grab some.
berries are going to start bubbling, and they're going to start cooking. You put them in, no one's going to know that you have those yummy berries with that cinnamon and the sugar in there.
It's secret.
Don't smash. Just sprinkle it on top.
So I don't have them overflowing. Like I said, I just put a layer in there, and I've got probably a good cup left of topping. So you can get creative later and do something else.
Trying to keep it in the pan, sweetheart.
These will bake for between 30 and 35 minutes at 350. And what you're looking for is the top's gonna be, it still might look a little bit dry, and that's okay. It's gonna start to be a little bit more brown, and you'll probably see some of those berries sneaking out and bubbling up a little bit. Once you see the bubbling up and it looks like the top is a little bit harder and kind of a golden brown, that's the time to take them out. But for me, I think I did 35 minutes last night for my, when I baked them in the muffin tins. But you can start checking at about 30 minutes. Now, if you have ice cream, these are great with ice cream. I mean, really good.
Mama, I want ice cream in mine.
You have a healthy lunch first, and then you have these as your dessert, as your reward. eat lots of vegetables, and then you can have these.
I need all of them. They can make them.
How are we doing?
You can save that.
I think everybody's liking this topping. Are we liking we could just eat the topping all day long, couldn't we? Might hurt our tummies after a while, considering it's raw flour in there, but you know.
Almost.
So yeah, so you guys are gonna put these in the oven, and then feel free, send me pictures or send me notes. You can even text me back. You should have my number on your text from my drop-offs, and let me know how it went, if they liked it. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna be posting next week's very soon, even today. I think I might do that. I'm thinking we might do some power bars or something like that for a good healthy snack.
When you're not smiling. Look at me, guys.
Thank you guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Russell, you want to say bye?
Bye. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.